In the story of an hour, we focus on a woman named Louise who is affected by a bad heart disease. We learn that Louise's husband, Brent, has died in a train accident and Louise is dealing with the loss. It is not sorrow that she feels, though, but instead it is hope for the future. By reading her reactions, we are able to learn that Brent was oppressive and Louise had, for the most part, not truly loved him. As she is thinking with excitement about her future filled with freedom, Brent walks in the door. It had been a mistake that he had been named dead, and in fact, he had not ever even been in danger. Upon seeing Brent, Louise collapses and dies from her heart disease, most likely being pushed over the edge at the sight of Brent.
The story, The Yellow Wallpaper, takes place in the Victorian time era, and the main character is about a woman who is married to a doctor named John. John moves his family out to the countryside in an elegant old house due to his wife struggling with depression. John keeps his wife contained in a room with yellow wallpaper, thinking this will help his wife's mental state. It has the opposite reaction as John finds his wife one day crawling around on the floor and ripping the yellow wallpaper off the walls.
"I am woman, hear me roar" is not a common phrase that would have been uttered in the 1800s. This line from Helen Reddy's famous song, "I Am Woman," proves how far gender roles have changed since the Victorian age. Gender roles throughout history have been inevitable and seemingly impossible to escape. For women in the 1800s, this is especially true. In Don Kiko's article for The Examiner, he states that this particular era brought a time of rapid change for America. However, this change had no real effect on the women of the time. It was both clearly stated and believed that only white men could vote. This demonstrates the lack of power women had within the society. At this time, America was very focused on expanding both nationally and internationally. This was a very political time, which back then was no place for a woman to get involved. Women were believed to have no place in what was considered a man's world. Due to their lack of rights, women were forced to spend most of their time within the home. Since women were unable to have jobs outside of the home, their everyday lives are described as unhurried and pleasant by Milan Coleman. He also states that women of higher classes were not known as women, but as ladies. This is the case for our main character of The Yellow Wallpaper. Her husband is a doctor, and therefore she relished the benefits of being considered upper class. This allowed her to not only have maids and servants, but also shows that she not only had to not work, but she also had no household duties to uphold. However, as the century continued towards its end, women started to see a slight change. It became quite normal to see a woman participating in a ladylike sports, and in 1830, females were finally able to attend secondary schools. This change gave many women more opportunities in life. We are able to see these gender roles in action through literature. The story, The Yellow Wallpaper, demonstrates how insignificant women were compared to men during the Victorian age. The woman in the yellow wallpaper has a mental illness, and since her husband is not only a doctor but also a man, her voice is not heard when trying to help her overcome her battles. It is clear that even though John, her husband, loves her dearly, he won't listen to any other opinions because he believes that since he is a male and a doctor, what he says is the only way it can be. The woman has a clear opinion of what she believes will help her. However, due to the fact that she is a woman, her voice is never heard. Literature helps us to further understand gender roles in the past. Thankfully, gender roles have come a long way since the Victorian age. Women now have a voice, women now have the ability to work out of the home, and women now have a say in their own lives. This change would have allowed many females, including the main character in The Yellow Wallpaper, to choose their own path and not have everything in their lives controlled by men. To further discuss the themes of this story and our other story, The Story of an Hour, we have 3 other speakers who will share their thoughts and opinions. We're talking about women inequality, and we have V and Sophie to discuss this further with us. The first question is, what are some of the present-day inequalities women face?
Well, women still make 0.77 cents to every dollar a man makes. Single mothers have become a norm in society. You hardly hear the term single fathers. Even if a female has the same position as a male, it's more likely that the male makes more money. It's harder to become a politician or a CEO for a female, and also men outnumber women at a rate of 73% versus 27% in all areas of employment for science and engineering.
Equality?
Absolutely not. There are more women enrolled in college, and we also have a higher graduation rate, but when faced with employment, we have to work 10 times harder to get the same position as a male.
What equality issues are women likely to face today?
Women receive the equality in academic performance. According to the statistic of organizations for economics, cooperation and development, which is known as OECD, the proportion of women aged 25 to 64 had completed higher education than they expected since 2006. In participating in employment, the rise of female education attainment has increased the female labor force participation on average from 58% in 1990 to 72% in 2010. However, the family role also changed and they received equality. According to the William Adema, a senior economist in the OECD Social Policy Division, stated that the relationship pattern seems to accompany the desire to combine life roles in ways that do not fit into traditional gender stereotypes. When women describe their ideal male partner as one who would be active in caretaking, and many men describe their ideal female partner as one who would achieve financial and career success.
Can you relate that course text to both stories, and how is it used within the stories?
Metaphor is the most important and that played both in the stories. In the story of Yellow Wallpaper, the wife looking into the wallpaper and seeing the woman behind of it. This metaphors imply that she's feeling trapped in the wallpaper, feeling under control by her husband, so she couldn't do anything else that she wanted to do. In the story of An Hour, the wife, after hearing her husband's death, she's looking out the window and thinking of something. And that's mean the metaphor, she trying to reach out the freedom that she's trying to have. So.
Brian here to talk about mental illnesses. Brian, the Yellow Wallpaper introduces a new theme of mental illness. How does this theme connect to gender differences?
There are many differences between men and women when it comes to mental illnesses. Men are more likely to abuse certain substances or have an antisocial disorder, where on the other hand, women are more likely to have a mood or an anxiety disorder. And there are also a lot of differences when it comes to treatment. See, women are generally not as adapted to standard treatments and they respond much better to emotional type of help, whereas men's illnesses are generally harder to cure with most standard treatments. And because of this, men usually have longer stays in psychiatric wards nowadays and are also more likely to be repeat visitors than women.
Do you think that gender differences played a part when it came to the mental illness of the main character in the story?
Yes, I do believe this made a difference. See, these gender differences have changed since the past. As we know, the Yellow Wallpaper is set in the Victorian age, and back then, emotional treatment wouldn't have been used by psychiatrists to treat anybody. See, this would have made it much more difficult to treat women, and it would have led to the institutionalization of many women whose mental illness really wasn't that severe, and they would have spent a long time in the psychiatric ward, as our main character has.